so that's why there wasn't too much involved in it, but yeah, the fire.
Yeah, fire. Thank you.
I got mine. I'm Hannah, and I did the costumes. And the most fun thing for me was actually creating the Rose Quartz costume prop. It was a little bit of a crossover, but I saw that prop and I was like, it's a costume too, so let me make it. Yes. And it was the most fun because I just got to like play around and design a fake Steven Universe costume.
I'm Jake, I'm the prop designer. My favorite prop piece, it's a very small piece, you don't see it much, but it's actually the marshmallows. Because if you look closely, they are not just pure white, they are this like toasted marshmallow color that when I first attempted it, looked like mustard, and I was like, that's not the vibe we're going for. So what I did was I took a wet damp sponge and old drag queen tip to like blend it out, because if you look at stuff, it doesn't always caramelize equally. So I was able to like blend it and have some white showing through.
And those marshmallows really help with the world building.
And fun fact about the official color of my car is toasted marshmallow. And I took them, and it is an exact match. You know.
Well done.
Yes.
I
nailed it.
spent too long tonight looking at watching YouTube videos of toasting marshmallows to look at that.
So your first attempt might have landed on the nailed it website, but the second attempt actually nailed it.
Spot on.
You know, second or third gloves when you're in the honeymoon.
All right, Holly, what about you?
My favorite part.
First of all, what you designed.
Oh yeah. Hi. I'm Holly Stone, and I did. I'm the projections designer, and I also did the videography for the projections and some graphic design and anyway, so yeah, my favorite thing was we got to spend a couple days going and filming fake YouTube and TikTok videos around various locations, and it was fabulous, and I had a ball, and that was my favorite part.
Yeah. Subscribe. That was real life.
To Alex and Genderland?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Erin, how about you back there?
The most fun part for me was coming to, because I had been I had done the sound design and live sound and music for the other
2017 version, and yeah.
So I had some familiarity with it, but I couldn't join the rehearsals until pretty late in the game. So I just enjoyed going to the rehearsals and hearing how things had changed, and just getting to play around during some of the rehearsals and trying things, many of which didn't end up in the show. But that was kind of a fun process to just actually, we had joked about it, and the wording has actually ended up in print a couple times, live sound design, which is not actually accurate. That would be like, I'm just making it up as a follow on, which occasionally happens, but in rehearsal, that's what it was. I mean, in rehearsal, it was making it up and being like, I wonder what this would sound like. And even when the thing didn't make it in the show and didn't work, that was just a fun part.
Yeah, part of the process. Okay, on the flip side, if there was a challenging aspect with this particular show and your design element. Oh yes, Jill.
I would say it would be in this line of work, especially within the community that Louisville is, you wear a lot of hats. And I think as a designer, I fairly rarely go on stage. To be completely transparent, I have really bad stage fright. And so it was designing a character that I felt comfortable enough to play on stage, and wrangling up my island of misfit toys and making some really beautiful, impactful art.
mine's not in the show, which is totally fine because I went to public school and realized that Keith pointed out the Y's backward on those prompts. I looked at Jill and said, I questioned myself if I had ever drawn a Y. But it was hour 10, and I was like, am I going insane? And I think so. But it's these blocks that me and Shannon had come up with that were like life-size children's spelling blocks that had X's and Y's that they were supposed to be in the video, and one of them had a whiteboard so they could draw a Y and cross it out. However, sometimes things don't work the way you want them to, and that's fine. I'm happy that no one has to see my bad Ys.
Yeah, we had a division for these blocks, which is like a 30-second bit in the show. And I was like, Jake, can you make them a reality? And Jake worked very hard to make them a reality. And I was like, now they gotta go. Sorry, Jake.
It's fine. No one has to see my sins.
Audience gathered here, do you have questions you want to ask about the design, the show? I mean, in our work at Lilith, the designers are kind of part of the devising of the show. We try to have a really collaborative process. So, questions or thoughts from you all? Yes.
It more on the thought side. You brought the little container for the bird, and I was like, "You got snacks." And then you started making bird noises. I was like, "That's not snacks." The whistle was cool, was it?
But I was just gonna.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's the first time.
She's eating live birds.
You gotta get him to make a sound.
One way or another.
I told Erin last night, I was like, I don't want to know the mystery of how you make the bird sound because it's so realistic.
And then I prompted.
And then she probably explained to me exactly how she made the
He's
bird
like, oh
sound.
wait, you're just a dumb thing.
Yeah. Any others? Well, I'll ask one more question of the team up here, and it's the same question that I asked the actors the other night. What are your reflections on both the blessings and the challenges of being a queer artist in Louisville? Whew, Hannah.
There are companies that don't hire queer designers, but they put on queer shows. I'm a queer designer. I have been working in this community for over 7 years, and I can count on one hand how many queer shows I've actually designed. I've even gone and asked people who run queer theater companies if I can design for them, and was told no. So I really appreciate looking for Lilith because they know how queer I am, and they let me design the queer shows, and I'm sick and tired of seeing queer art and not being a part of it as a designer. Design erasure is real in Louisville theater.
Thank you for sharing that challenge.
You're welcome.
That's real.
I mean, does no one else want to go before? I feel like I've talked a lot.
I like to keep going.
So I have two. I think one, I have really learned over the process that I am very blessed in that I was raised by drag queens. So I get to spending so much time with them and spending so much time with my trans friends. I've picked up so many little things that I get to bring into this design process that like either working with like the unconventional materials or even like painting the marshmallows, because I was like, oh, if I take my sponge and it's wet, it'll smooth it out better, it'll blend better. I did a show for Fidelia, who plays Lily in the show, where I had to paint myself green, and I was like, oh yeah, I have to blend into my hairline so you can't see the fact that even though I'm a lizard, you can't tell that I have human skin underneath this. So it's cool that I get to celebrate my friends in a way that is still celebrating part of me, and that's very important to me. I think a challenge is theater's kind of like my church, and a lot of the times there's not, because I'm also an actor, more of an actor than I am a designer. Jill has thrown me to the designing wolves after I was like,
We
I'm
tried
gonna
to
design.
be really friendly wolves.
I was like, I'm gonna design.
We're
And Jill's like,
pretty.
there. I was like, okay. I'm very grateful for Jill. We've done so many shows this year. But I think a challenge is I don't get to play a lot of roles for queer people. I've played a heterosexual man most of my life.
Gross.
Honestly. And it wasn't until Jill actually casted me in a show for a 10-minute play that Erin wrote where I got to play a bisexual man. And I was like, this is the first time I've gotten to play a queer person on stage that was explicitly queer. I've played a chupacabra before I played a queer man. Don't know what that says. I don't know if the chupacabra is homosexual. Probably.
All you have to do is ask.
Say for me, it's the challenge and the blessing of being an artist, a queer artist. I will say my background up until the past several years was never in visual art. I was like always a musician, and so yeah, my whole background is in music. And then let's secrets out. But honestly, what happened was I saw a video of myself when I was about probably 9 or 10 years old and was really embarrassed at basically just how gay I looked on camera. You know, that's 30 years ago, and I just wanted to stay out of the spotlight my entire life. So I got introduced into the world of theater just about 2 years ago, just with set design, and I'd say the blessing is like the more I'm around it, the more I feel like I could be on a stage performing at some point and not be ashamed of who I am. So that's the blessing of it. The challenge is still just kind of getting past that. I still hate seeing myself recorded. I hate hearing my voice recorded, but I think I'll get past that eventually. Yeah.
Anybody else have something to share?
I have a chicken or egg question.
Yes. Go for it, Jared.
Does this, in production, do you think it helps yourself more, or does it help others more?
Oh, that's a great question, Jared. Go for it, Jill. What do you think?
So, as someone who, to the outside world would look very heterosexual because I have chosen to marry a man and have at least one of his children. We have 3 together, his, mine, and ours. Thank you, COVID vaccine. It has given me an opportunity to live in my queerness that I haven't been able to my entire life. And last night was the first night that it clicked as to all of the, oh, I'm an outcast, oh, I don't fit in. I've never fit into the norm. I've always been taller and bigger and louder than all these people. And it clicked that I just thought it was because of who I am, and it really is because I have been queer from the moment that I was born, and that is okay. And it is one of those things when you become a 40-year-old where you're like, all right, if I've got like 37, good more years, I'm gonna live those the most authentic and the most true, because now I have the next generation that I have to be a role model for, because I don't want my children to have to go through that shit.
I have to be a little selfish. This for me has been very healing for me specifically. This project has been kind of tangentially around me since I've been with Lilith for 2-3 years now. And it was the first time anyone ever came to me and said, oh, you're queer, you want to design this queer show? We don't know what it's going to be or who's going to be in it, but we want you to design it. And I was like, yes,
yes, and I waited and I waited and I waited. And I got the email this year, and it's been a very rough year, and I immediately said yes, and from that moment up through my tech, it was the most joyful time I've experienced in the roughest 14 months of my life. So selfishly, yes, this was for me. I love all of my friends. I love designing for my friends. They're so easy to work with and to put into clothes, but like Lilith is a place where I can come and I can feed my own soul, and it's okay to be selfish and celebrate my queerness. I don't get to do that anywhere else. I don't get to show up and say, I'm gonna drown you in pride colors, and that be okay. So thanks for that question.
I think for me, for all of our work for the last 23 years, I like to think, I don't know whether it's the chicken or the egg, I like to think that it is a selfless venture. And that it's like, okay, we're gonna create this thing to educate or to inspire feeling or to inspire change. And like, none of that's a lie. That is, of course, part of it. But the truth is also that it makes me so happy. It makes me so happy. And I may be happier than other people. I don't know.
But whether it's the chicken or the
Happier
egg,
than I have a right to be.
well, I mean, whether it's the chicken or the egg, I'm still eating. Like,
Yeah. We need the chicken and we need the
Like,
egg.
I feel like, for me, I would like to think that, you know, audience was more moved by it, you know, than we were, but from the very first table read, I was, you know, 15 minutes in and I was crying, you know, and that was via Zoom. I wasn't even like in the room. I was like, and just watching the entire thing, it's like I relate to so many different roles in that, and I see maybe some of even what my parents, you know, were going through when I was a child. Because I remember my first great heartbreak in life was finding out that I couldn't be a nun when I grew up. Sister Act, I was obsessed with it. I thought that nuns just sang, and I was like, yes. And, and
so you
but
also
it's,
sing.
I was, and I guess
All right,
not be a
I am-
nun,
I'm
but
just taking notes.
yeah, no, but it was, you know, seeing, you know, a little bit of like that scene where they talk about, you know, maybe your parents were afraid and they weren't, you know, they were afraid for you and not so much they were judging you. And yeah, that had to be terrifying for my parents to think, what's this going to be like when he grows up? So it's, yeah, I can't imagine sitting as an audience member. I can imagine this show would be very moving to me. So I think probably a little bit of both.
I would agree with Daniel. I had the privilege of bringing my dad on opening night, and he has always been my biggest supporter. He let me be Snow White for Halloween when I was 5. There's a photo of me, full makeup and a Snow White wig and a Snow White dress, and he was still shocked. I don't know why. I was the oldest queen. But I think for him it was twofold, because he after the show, remember I asked him after Act 1, I was like, so how do you like it? He was like, I don't really see my perspective. I was like, well, that's kind of the point. Like, Dad, it's not you're a straight guy, Dad. You're not. This isn't about you. But then Keith's monologue in Act 2, when about being so scared for their child, after the show, he was like, I want to talk to Shannon. I was like, oh God, he's gonna be mad about the bathroom thing or something. Oh no, don't fuck this up for me, Dad. And then he was like, no, that monologue in the second act, he's like, that's how I've felt about you since you were a child. And it was the first time I got to see how I feel about you represented and part of the conversation. And he really liked the Vanessa character because she wanted so badly to support her kids, but felt like she was maybe setting himself up to be hurt. And yeah, I think like Daniel said, it's a little bit of both, because I think this show brought me and my dad a little bit closer together, and I'm very grateful for that.
I am a aware of time and aware that I don't know that we could top that story. But if anybody else has closing thoughts they want to share.
We also have another show tomorrow, so please get on your socials and get people in the seats. We still have some tickets left.
Drag people off the street.
Drag people,
people
just
off the
walk
street.
up to people and be like, hey, it's June, let's go see the show.
And don't wait around until evening because
It's a matinee.
It's a matinee.
At 2 o'clock matinee tomorrow.
you show up
Alright.
at 7, you're gonna be out of luck.
Yes.
We will be back.
Thank you.
I will be
everyone.
sleeping.
We will be in bed.
Travel safe.